Seventh grade science, order and design. Chapter 1, Invitation to Science. Section 1, Studying God's Living Creation. Through science, man has greatly increased his knowledge of God's creation and used that knowledge to benefit mankind. In fact, many early modern scientists who believed in God, great men like Sir Isaac Newton, Galileo Galilei, Sir Francis Bacon, and Robert Boyle, wrote of God's infinite wisdom and design, evidenced in their studies of creation. These men established that the purpose of science is carefully observing nature, discovering the laws of creation, and using those laws for mankind's benefit. This purpose fulfills God's first command to Adam and Eve: be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. The study of living things, called life science or biology, began with this command to Adam and Eve to subdue the earth and use it for their benefit. From the beginning, man has been naming, using, and studying living things. Scientists who study living things are called biologists. In this chapter, you will study what organisms or living things need for survival and where they live. You will learn about how scientists classify organisms for study, and you will learn how to study and think about nature like a scientist. Using these skills throughout the remaining chapters will enable you to make fascinating discoveries and will give you a greater knowledge of God's amazing creation. Branching out. Because there is a great diversity of living things to study, scientists divide biology into different branches. The study of animals and how they live is called zoology. In zoology, scientists also discover new species and breed healthier, stronger animals. Botany is the study of plants. Many scientists who study plants use their knowledge to help farmers grow larger, better crops, and to change plant characteristics, including flower color and design. Microbiology, or the study of organisms that are too small to see without a microscope, encompasses zoology and botany because some animals and plants are microscopic. The study of organisms interacting with their surroundings and each other is called ecology. Ecology links all the other branches of biology together by showing how one organism relates to another. The fifth main branch of biology is human anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the study of an organism's shape and structure, while physiology is the study of how an organism's structure functions. When studying anatomy, a scientist may analyze a leg muscle's size, shape, and location, but in physiology, he would study how the leg muscles function in movement. Using anatomy and physiology, scientists can understand how our bodies work and can help medical doctors repair injuries or cure diseases. The meaning of life. God created a great variety of living things: giant whales and miniature aquatic plants, high-flying birds and deep-sea fish, cheetahs that run at over 100 kilometers per hour, and snails that take over 12 minutes to travel 1 meter. Despite this diversity, all living things have 5 main characteristics in common. They have an organized structure, grow, respond to changes in and around themselves, reproduce, and carry out the life processes of metabolism. Organized structure. The more scientists study living things, the more it becomes evident that God made all living things with an orderly and carefully designed structure. Every organism consists of one or more cells. A cell is the smallest unit of living things that can be said to be alive. In even the simplest cell, many different components must work in perfect harmony for the cell to carry on its life processes. We will study some of the cell's complex structure and function in Chapter 11. A unicellular organism consists of a single cell that performs all of the organism's functions, but a multicellular organism, like an animal or plant, contains many different types of cells, each with a different purpose. Most multicellular organisms have cells arranged into tissues, or groups of different types of cells working together to perform a single function. A large structure made of several types of tissues, like the brain of a person or an animal, or a leaf of a plant, is an organ. A group of organs that together perform some large function for the organism, like digestion or distribution of substances, is a system. Growth. Another characteristic of living things is that all living things grow. Unicellular organisms grow by increasing cell size as they absorb water and other substances. Although the individual cells of multicellular organisms also increase in size, most growth in multicellular organisms occurs by increasing the number of cells through cell division, not by increasing the size of the cells. Every time a cell divides, it is replaced by two new cells, its daughters. Throughout an organism's life, this process of cell division repeats many times to form the numerous cells in the fully grown organism from a single cell. Response to changes. All living things respond to changes, both within themselves and outside themselves. To survive, an organism or cell must maintain a stable internal condition called homeostasis. For example, your body needs oxygen from the air to function. If the level of oxygen in your body decreases, as when you are exercising, your body responds to the change by breathing harder and faster to take in more oxygen and maintain homeostasis. Unicellular organisms and the individual cells of multicellular organisms must also maintain homeostasis by responding to changes in their internal chemical composition. Organisms also respond to changes outside themselves. Your body responds to hot weather by sweating to keep cool, and responds to cold weather by shivering to keep warm. This allows your internal temperature to stay constant. For proper body function, many plants respond to changes in sunlight by turning their leaves toward the sun. Some animals, such as snowshoe hares and Arctic foxes, respond to shorter days in autumn and winter by changing their coat color to blend with snow. Most unicellular organisms find food by detecting slight changes in the amount of certain chemicals, much as you may find a favorite dessert by detecting in which direction the smell is strongest. The white blood cells that protect your body from disease use a similar technique to hunt invading microorganisms. Reproduction. When God created living things, He commanded them to multiply and fill the earth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 22. He repeated this command after the flood of Noah's day. Genesis chapter 8, verse 17. To carry out this command, all living things reproduce. Reproduction is the process by which life continues through the generation of new organisms. As you study life, you will learn the great variety of ways that God has designed for organisms to reproduce. No matter how organisms reproduce, heredity, the transmission of characteristics from parent to offspring, ensures that the offspring are the same kind of organism as the parents and have many other similarities to their parents. We will study heredity in more detail in Chapter 11. Metabolism. All living things perform metabolism, the sum of all the chemical processes of life. Although God designed metabolism to be more complex than any processes that occur in non-living things, it still follows the same laws of science as the non-living creation. One of the most fundamental laws of science is the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but can only change form. Because of this, all the energy required by metabolism must come from nutrients, substances in food that provide organisms with energy or serve other essential purposes. Plants use available water, air, and sunlight to make their own food throughout photosynthesis. Animals and people cannot make their own food, but because all organisms need the same basic types of nutrients, they can get the nutrients they need by ingesting or eating plants and other organisms. The first step in metabolism is converting the energy from nutrients into a form the cells can use, a chemical called ATP. In humans and many other organisms, the cells produce ATP by combining nutrients with oxygen in the process of cellular respiration. Without oxygen, these organisms cannot obtain the energy they need. Some organisms, most of which are unicellular, can use other processes to produce ATP without using oxygen. No matter how the ATP is produced, the remainder of metabolism uses the ATP energy for growth, movement, and other body activities. After metabolism is completed, unneeded substances are removed through excretion to prevent accumulation that could poison the organism. To perform metabolism, an organism needs adequate water. For example, about 70% of your body's mass is water, and your body must maintain that percentage of water to survive. Too much or too little water could stop your body's functions. You can survive over a week without food, but you cannot survive more than a few days without drinking water. All organisms, not just humans, need water for their metabolism to function.